Somebody has told you about the ketchup. Smear it on the rusted chrome, leave it a while, wipe it off, and the orange comes with it. That is a real trick, and this is one I am not here to take away from you. It worked in 1958, and it works on the bumper in your driveway this afternoon. Here is why. Tomatoes carry acetic and citric acid at roughly the strength of a dilute vinegar, and mild acid dissolves iron oxide. That is the whole chemistry, but vinegar runs straight off a vertical bumper in 4 seconds, and ketchup does not. The puree holds that acid against the metal long enough to actually do the work. It was never magic. It was a poultice that happened to be in the icebox. Now the part the title gets wrong, and I would rather tell you than let you find out on a fender. It is not one wipe. Light surface rust and tarnish, yes, in 20 minutes. Pitted rust that has been there 3 winters needs several rounds, and it will never come back to mirror. And 2 things ruin bumpers: leaving acid on plating overnight, which attacks the nickel underneath the chrome, and scrubbing with the wrong abrasive, which leaves scratches no polish removes. I spent 30 years in a restoration shop, and I have watched more chrome killed by impatience than by weather. By the end of this, you will know how to do it properly, the one abrasive that is safe and the ones that are not, and why the step everybody skips is the only one that decides whether the rust comes back. Number 17 is the step almost nobody does, and skipping it means you will be doing this again in 6 weeks. Number 11 is the test that tells you in 10 seconds whether that trim is even chrome, because on a lot of modern cars, it is not. And number 1 costs nothing, and it is why a restoration man's own bumpers never needed any of this. These 25 tricks were never about a bottle of ketchup. They were about men who understood that chrome is not metal. It is a stack of thin-plated layers, and every one of them can be saved or destroyed by what you decide to rub on it. Let us count down the 25 things they knew about rusted chrome. Number 25. Doing the ketchup trick properly. Wash the bumper first, dry it, then smear ketchup thick over the rusted area so it stays put. Leave it 20 to 30 minutes, no longer. Wipe with a soft cloth, rinse with clean water, and dry it completely. A shopman in 1958 set a timer and walked away. Repeat it 3 times rather than leave it on once for an hour. The acid does not know when to stop, so you have to. Number 24. Knowing what chrome actually is. It is not solid metal. It is a layer of copper, then nickel, then a skin of chrome maybe a few millionths of an inch thick, plated onto steel or pot metal. When you see rust, the steel underneath is showing through a break in that stack. A restoration man in 1958 explained this before he sold anybody a polish. You are not cleaning metal. You are working on a coating thinner than a fingerprint. Number 23. Never leaving acid on overnight. Men reason that if 20 minutes helps, all night helps more. It does the opposite. Once the acid works through to the nickel, it dulls it permanently, and dull nickel under chrome cannot be polished back. A shopman in 1958 would not leave a car with product on it. The rust came off in the first 20 minutes. Everything after that came off the plating. Number 22. Vinegar for the parts you can lay flat. Trim pieces, bumper bolts, small brackets, anything you can remove and set in a pan. Straight white vinegar overnight will lift rust off small parts better than any smear does. A young mechanic in 1958 salvaged a coffee can of rusted hardware this way. Ketchup exists because bumpers hang vertical. Anything you can lay down, you soak instead. Number 21. The only abrasive that belongs on chrome. Fine grade 00000 steel wool, used wet with soapy water or with the polish itself, and light pressure. Nothing coarser. Not a scouring pad, not a wire brush, not sandpaper, not a drill attachment. A restoration man in 1958 kept 1 grade on the shelf and threw the rest out. Grade 000 cuts rust and leaves plating. Everything coarser cuts both. Number 20. Keeping the wool and the surface wet. Dry steel wool on dry chrome grinds, and the fibers load with rust and become sandpaper in your hand. Wet it, keep it wet, and rinse the pad every minute or so. A shopman in 1958 worked with a bucket at his feet. The wool is not what scratches chrome. The dry grit trapped in the wool is. Number 19. Aluminum foil and water, the version that costs nothing. A crumpled ball of aluminum foil, dipped in water or in cola, will lift rust from chrome and is softer than the plating, so it does not scratch. It works because aluminum is more reactive than iron and takes the oxide with it. A driver in 1958 used what was in the drawer. Foil is softer than chrome. That is the whole reason it is safe. Number 18. Working in the shade on cool metal. Any of this on a bumper sitting in the sun dries before it can act, streaks, and bakes product into the surface. You do this in the shade, on metal, cool to the touch, early or late in the day. A shopman in 1958 pulled cars inside first. Hot metal does not clean faster, it just stops you before you finish. Here is something nobody is counting. The men who ran plating and restoration shops, who could look at a bumper and tell you whether it had 1 winter left or 10, are nearly all gone, and most of the plating shops went with them. The youngest are past 80. They did not keep it in a manual. They kept it in their hands, over 30 years of working thin metal with a rag and their own patience. When they go, the bottle stays in the refrigerator door, and the wool stays on the hardware store shelf, exactly where they always were, and the knowing goes into the ground. That chain ran bench to apprentice for 50 years, and then chrome got replaced by plastic, and nobody had to learn it. If this is worth something to you, take 1 second right now and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. That is the only reason a video like this ever reaches the next man who needs it. Number 17. Sealing it the same hour you finish. This is the step nobody does. Acid-cleaned chrome is bare and hungry, and left alone the rust starts again within weeks. A coat of carnauba wax or a synthetic sealant the same afternoon closes the pores in the plating. A restoration man in 1958 waxed before he stepped back to look. Cleaning stops the rust you found. Only the seal stops the rust that is coming. Number 16. Reading how far gone it is before you start. Light orange haze that wipes to a smear is surface rust, and it will come clean. Dark rough spots you can feel with a fingernail are pits, and the plating there is already breached, so it will improve but never mirror. Holes are done. A shopman in 1958 called the stage before he opened anything. Knowing which one you have decides whether an afternoon is worth spending. Number 15. Catching the freckle instead of the field. 1 orange speck on a bumper is 5 minutes and costs nothing. The same speck ignored for a season spreads under the plating and lifts it, and then no chemistry reaches it. A man proud of his car in 1958 hit a fleck the day it appeared, never the month after. The rust is not fast. It is only patient, and it counts on you being busy. Number 14. Cleaning the backside of the bumper. Every bumper rusts from behind, where road spray sits on bare metal that was never plated as carefully as the face. You clean and wipe the back with an oily rag or a cavity wax once a year. A restoration man in 1958 did the hidden side first. The face is the side you look at. The back is the side that decides how long the face lasts. Number 13. Clearing the mud out of the bumper's blind spots. Behind brackets, inside the ends, and in the seam where a bumper meets its mounts, wet dirt packs in and holds moisture against metal for years. You dig it out with a brush and a hook and flush it clean. A shopman in 1958 got behind everything he cleaned. It is not the weather that rusts a bumper. It is the mud that kept the weather there. Number 12. Never using a household bathroom cleaner on chrome. Those bowl and tile products often carry hydrochloric acid, which is a different animal from tomato acid, and it will eat straight through plating and etch the steel underneath in minutes. Men reach for them because they say rust remover on the label. A shopman in 1958 kept the house chemicals in the house. Mild acid lifts oxide. Strong acid removes the part. Number 11. Testing whether it is even chrome. On a lot of cars built since the 1990s, that bright trim is chrome-look plastic, anodized aluminum, or a coated plastic film, an acid or steel wool destroys all three instantly. A magnet sticks to plated steel and not to the others. Tap it, feel the temperature, look at the edges. A restoration man in 1958 only ever had one material. You have four, and only one of them takes this treatment. There is a reason nobody points you at a refrigerator door. Price it out. Rechroming a single bumper at a plating shop runs $800 to $1,500, and that is if a shop near you still does it, because most closed when the environmental cost of the process climbed. A reproduction bumper for a common classic is $400 to $900 before mounting, and on a modern truck, a chrome bumper assembly runs $600 to about $200 installed. Now the other side, a bottle of ketchup, $3, a pad of grade 0000 steel wool, $5, a tin of chrome polish, $10, a can of wax you already own. Under $20 in one afternoon stands between a man and the four-figure version, and none of it is covered by anything. The craft was not lost. It was made unprofitable, and then it was allowed to die. Do me one favor before we get to the top 9. Hit like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so the next one finds you. That is the entire price of this. Number 10. Using a real chrome polish after the acid, the ketchup lifts the oxide. A proper chrome polish is a fine cutting compound that takes off the last haze and leaves the surface smooth, which is what makes it reflect again. Applied with a soft cloth, small circles, then buffed off with a clean one. A shopman in 1958 finished every job this way. Acid gets it clean. Polish is what makes it bright. Number 9. Working a small section at a time. Men smear a whole bumper, and by the time they reach the far end, the first part is dried on. You work a foot at a time, start to finish, then move along. A restoration man in 1958 worked in panels his arm could reach without stepping. The job is not slower in sections. It is only slower when you have to do half of it twice. Number 8. Keeping acid off the paint and the trim. Ketchup on a painted panel, a rubber strip, or a plastic bezel does not belong there, and left sitting, it will dull paint and stain rubber. You mask the edges with tape or wipe any overrun immediately and rinse. A shopman in 1958 taped before he opened a jar. It is not the bumper you have to worry about. It is the 2 inches on either side of it. Number 7. Rinsing and drying properly in that order. Every trace of acid has to come off, including out of the seams and bolt heads where it hides and keeps working. Flush with clean water, then dry with a towel, and if you can, blow the seams out with air. A restoration man in 1958 dried a bumper like he was drying a gun. Residue left in a seam is a rust spot you built yourself. Number 6. Coating the chrome before winter. In salt country, a layer of wax or even a wipe of petroleum jelly over the bumpers in November means salt beads and rolls instead of biting into every pinhole in the plating. A station man in 1958 sent his northern customers home this way each fall. It is not vanity. It is a barrier 1 fingertip thick against a season that eats plating alive. Number 5. Rinsing the salt off through the winter. Wax alone does not survive 4 months of brine. On every thaw day above freezing, you rinse the bumpers and everything behind them, because salt does nothing while frozen and goes to work the moment it dissolves. A northern driver in 1958 washed after every thaw. The salt does not eat your chrome in the storm. It eats it on the warm day after. Number 4. Knowing when to stop and pay somebody. If the plating has lifted and flaked, if there are holes, or if it is pot metal that is swollen and cracked, no chemistry on earth brings it back, and continuing only spreads the damage. That is a plating shop or a replacement, and there is no shame in either. A restoration man in 1958 told customers plainly which bumpers he could not save. Knowing the limit is part of the trade. Number 3. Knowing where chrome always goes first. You do not inspect a whole car. You look at the bottom edge of every bumper, the back side, the lower corners where stone chips land, the bumper bolt heads and brackets, and any seam where two pieces meet. That handful is where nearly every chrome failure in this country begins. A shopman in 1958 put his hand on it in a minute. Rust is not random. It starts where water sits and where stones land. Number 2, the seasonal pass with a cloth and a light. Twice a year you go down that map with a bright light, mark anything orange, and clean and seal it the same afternoon. 40 minutes, once in spring and once before the salt. It is not a repair. It is a standing appointment with the bright work, and it is where every 4-figure bumper on this list actually began. Number 1, catching the first orange speck and killing it the day you see it. That is all. 5 minutes with a smear and a cloth. Because every ruined bumper in the history of the automobile started as one freckle somebody drove past week after week, and by the time it was worth a Saturday, the plating underneath was already gone. Your grandfather did this without calling it anything. He called it keeping after it. Number 1 is not a trick. It is the look that makes the other 24 worth knowing. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell right now. It costs you nothing, and it is the whole reason I get to keep making these. None of this needed a certification, a plating tank, or a subscription to anything. It needed $20 of supplies, a soft cloth, a light, and a man who understood that chrome is a coating thinner than a fingerprint and treated it accordingly. That was the default setting in every shop in America, not confidence handed down from a classroom. Confidence built from having saved enough bumpers to know exactly how little it takes to lose one. We did not lose the bottle. It is in the refrigerator door, right where it always was. We lost the hands that knew the 20-minute limit and the one grade of wool, and the old man who ran a thumb along a bumper edge found the one spot you had missed and said, "There, that is where it will start," and it does not care that the rest looks fine. So tell me down in the comments what you are driving and go put a magnet on your bright work. Sticks or does not. That one answer decides whether any of this applies to your car, and it takes 10 seconds to find out. He is gone now, and most of what he knew went with him. But not all of it, because some of it is in this video, written down at last. So use the Ketchup this weekend, because it genuinely works, on light rust for 20 minutes, and then seal it the same hour. Then start the habit that means you never need it again. Next time I will show you how those same men brought chalked, oxidized single-stage paint back to gloss with a $30 bottle of compound and one afternoon. The craft is not dead. It is $20 and a willing hand away.